Hello, folks. Today is Tuesday, October 29th, 2024. As usual, my name is Todor Varov, and I'm back with the 39th episode of Keeping It Realistic. In this show, in collaboration with Chaos, we take a look at some recent news, announcements, tutorials, but also interesting upcoming events, mostly revolving around Chaos, but not only. We occasionally discuss topics relevant to the group and the visualization field as a whole, and last but certainly not least, of course, we review some of your works, both work in progress and finished ones, shared in the group within the last 14 days, talking about their strengths, but also pointing out their weaknesses, and even eventually suggesting ways to improve them. And remember, we do all of this as a live session so that you can actively participate in the discussions, interact with myself, interact with each other. So gladly say hi, ask questions, voice your opinion, make suggestions, and generally be active. And with this out of the way, welcome everyone. Let me check the chat. I see Juan, I see Amit, I see Daniel. Hello guys, glad to see you today. I'm very happy that we get to hang out together again. It's actually the third time in this month. Since we started doing the show on a weekly base. This doesn't happen that often, but in October, we actually had it on the October 1st, October 15th, and now today, October 29th. And I'm very happy about this. Anyway, I hope you're well. I hope everything around you is good. You're fit, you're healthy, and things are going the way you want them to. And without any further ado, if not, or if so, gladly let me know in the comments. But without any further ado, I would actually bring your attention back to our cover image of today's episode of the show. Please remind me afterwards that I show myself because I gladly forget about it. Anyway, looking at the image, the works were contributed by Muhammad, Simon, and Nel. I don't know how this name is pronounced. It certainly isn't NHL because this would be the National Hockey League. So I'll just be calling you Nel and hope that this is somehow correct. Diego joined us. Hello, man. Glad to have you here. Simon has already been featured. Muhammad and Nel, for them, it's the first time. But anyway, congrats to all three artists. Now, our last cover image triptych was rather harmonious. We had all those beige colors. And this one is quite different. It builds on contrast. Obviously, we have very different types of images and also with a very diverse look to them. And I really, really enjoy it because it shows how interesting and exciting our group actually is. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. Amit says, relaxing for 2 weeks now as Diwali festival is on, taking time for my family and friends finally. Well, this sounds absolutely amazing, Amit, and I'm very, very happy to you because at least in my priority list, friends and especially family is the very top position. So spending time with them is actually great. I also had the chance to do so this weekend because we were at the Lake of Constance, where I used to study. This is the first city which I actually visited after leaving Bulgaria and coming to Germany to study. And we had an anniversary with my former colleagues from the Bachelor Architecture study. So I met a lot of friends and I took my whole family with me. So we also experienced a really, really good weekend. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So yeah, very happy for you. Abdi join us. Very happy to have you here, man. You're right on time because after appreciating our cover image triptych, we'll take a look at our other cover image, this time the Facebook group's new cover. You know, we recently started doing this, that during the show I present to you a selection of 5 images and afterwards I make a post about it. You can, by the way, find it among the featured posts. It's up here. And when you click on it, you can actually vote for the images that you like the most. You vote by simply giving the image that you like the most a like. In this case, it is the image that won out. It was a very close call in this case. Probably it was a real thrill which image will be winning. In the end, it was Raphael's, and even though I like all of them, I completely agree with your choice, and I think that our new cover looks really, really nice. And we can, of course, click on it. I always try to place the Chaos Campus logo in a way that it kind of fits within the image, and I think that in this particular case, it actually does. It's very, very nice. I love this minimalism, and I think it very nicely fits the group. Also, our first two covers were pretty dark, so having something brighter for contrast is actually pretty sweet, if you ask me. I hope you like it. Amit says, nice cover image for the campus. Beautiful was a tough one this time as there were so many amazing images. Totally agree. As I told you already, I'm happy that I don't have to vote because I don't want to put your attention on one specific image that I eventually like the most, and this way maybe make you vote for it. So I don't want to interfere with this voting. This is why I don't vote. It's not that I don't have an opinion, but thinking about that I'm the one who picks the 5 images at the first place, I think we can agree that I like them all. Amit says, did you show your kids the college that you studied and the places that you visited during your time? Yes. The places that I visited, not necessarily, but we were in the college and not only on the campus, but actually in the buildings themselves. They haven't changed much. And this was actually pretty cool because I was able, me and my friend there, my brother from another mother who lives in Constance, we both visited our college, our university. And yeah, it was, given that not much had changed there, we were able to have our nostalgia trip the way we intended to. There were even certain smells that were still the same after all these years. Not any bad smells, just some spaces have their certain smell to them, and it makes them very recognizable on a different level. So anyway, it was really, really cool. And Abdi says, did you show the Switzerland on the other side too? No, we were just there for literally a day and a half because the travel over there is 6 to 7 hours. So we didn't have much time, but believe it or not, I thought about you. And next time we will visit them for a longer period. I'll definitely give you a call and meet you because I know that you're in the area there. But yeah, the program this time was really, really rough. Anyway, let's not waste any more time. Actually, talking with you is never a time wasted. I very much enjoy it. But we have a program we have to fulfill here. So let's take a look at it, and later we can continue talking if you wish to. So let's take a look at the news. I'll start with a small reminder. Random People is giving away 4 of those post models. With Halloween approaching, they're thematically scary, so probably not very suitable for your everyday interiors or something. But let's say you try to create a scene from The Purge, then they will be perfect for that matter. I don't know, I remember talking about this an year ago around Halloween. Maybe they were the very same models. If so, you maybe already have them. But if not, and if you could use them, then gladly go and grab them while they're still free of charge. Okay, next topic about something upcoming, not necessarily an event, but the folks from the Common Point, Arto and Bartosz, will be the next guests of the CG Architect podcast with Ricardo Eloy from CG Architect. And they give us the chance to actually ask them questions. So if you have any questions, okay, if you have anything you want to know about those guys, and I don't think it necessarily has to be something which is only about architectural visualization or something. You can also ask where they go hiking or what they do in their free time. The way I know them, they're very pleasant. They're always eager to answer. So just maybe ask what you want to know about them. And if you want to do so, just write an email at admin@cgarchitect.com. And probably Ricardo Eloy will be able to forward your question to both guys, and they will eventually answer it. This would be pretty awesome, if you ask me. Just, putting this out there. There is also a post in the group in case you forget about this If you scroll down somewhere here, you'll see a post by Ricardo Eloy where he reminds you about this. Okay, next, let's do what we actually usually do in the beginning of the news section and check the Chaos event calendar for upcoming events. And honestly, there are still lots of events until the end of the year here, but I have the feeling that we have already discussed them all and there is nothing new, no new dates uploaded, so I think we can skip this. However, given that here are no new dates, doesn't mean that Chaos doesn't have any new updates. So this would be our next topic. Chaos Vantage 2 Update 6 is out, and it comes with some really sweet and actually major improvements, if you ask me. So now we have a V-Ray clipper, which is something big. We have subsurface scattering support for V-Ray materials. I don't know how it stays with Corona. You gotta test this out. We have support for the Phoenix ocean texture, which is something, if I remember correctly, Abdi was often recommending to us all. I don't often have to do with water surfaces. That's why I'm not so much into it. We have VR controller support. I'm planning to buy MetaQuest 3 this year, so this is great to me. Also, wireframe overlay, very easy to set up. Absolutely easy to do, and I'm very happy about this because from time to time we need something like this, and something that may seem like a small thing, but honestly to me this is actually a very big topic, is that cameras are now actual objects that you can move around, rotate and so on, which, if you ask me, will make the setup of cameras even easier, and I'm very happy with this change. You can just watch the video if you want and see where the whole list of oh sorry, I just switched to another video. So yeah, just take a look at the video and see what the changes are, but it's very promising. I'm planning to do a scene specifically to test Vantage with next, so I'm happy that I'll get to try out most of these new features. Okay, by the way, the scene that you see here is also the scene as a cover image of the official Chaos Facebook group. You know, this group, I show it on every show. There is always something new, interesting in it, some videos, tutorials, news, announcements. The difference to the campus is that you cannot share your own work within the limits of this group. You can just take a look at stuff or comment on stuff that has been shared by Chaos themselves. But yeah, this is where I found a video about Vantage or many other news and articles and whatnot. And this is where I also found this one, this very short teaser about the upcoming Chaos Envision. I'll just quickly check the comments. I see Ahmed joined us. He says, "Hi Theo, nice to see you. How are you?" I'm very fine. I'm very happy that we get to hang out together today again. And thanks for asking. How about you, man? Abdi says that will allow a much more flexible way to animate the cameras in a good way. Yes, the new camera as an object in Vantage is something which I was missing, even though I'm not much into Vantage, but the times that I experimented with it, every time I felt like it's a bit of an issue for me that the camera is not something that I'm able to see or move around the way I'm used to in Max. So yeah, I'm very happy about this change, even though it's not the most significant among the new features. Anyway, back to Envision. Okay, this teaser doesn't really show much apart from Envision being render engine with which you can also animate, let's say, contrary to Enscape, which doesn't really support animations. So Envision obviously does, but what is it? It doesn't say anymore. Now, I hope it's not an issue if I tell you some of my thoughts about this or about this whole Chaos and its render engines topic. So, you know, I was at a Chaos Connect Day in Sofia and we got some insider news. So the way I remember it is that Envision is going to be a real-time ray tracer engine. I don't know when it will come out or things like this, but it will be more targeted to CAD users, so the architects, designers, engineers, rather than 3D artists. But eventually, this is just something which I improvise more or less, because nobody asked me to do this, and I'm also not quite sure if everything I will tell you is right. It's the way I understand it. But yeah, in the meantime, Chaos has a list of engines. You know, in the beginning it was V-Ray, it was simple. But in the meantime, we also have Corona and Escape and Vantage, and now also Envision is announced. So I tried to I was a bit confused at some points, and I tried to get some light into the darkness here that I would gladly share with you. So yeah, let's try to do a small summary on the Chaos engines. So first of all, we have V-Ray and Corona. V-Ray doesn't really have its own page. The V-Ray page is also the official Chaos page. Abdi says it is becoming the twin motion for 3ds Max, getting better. SSSS, yes, subsurface scattering is now supported as well. Yes, about Vantage, yeah, this is really cool. Okay, but now back to the engines. Okay, so first we have V-Ray and we also have Corona. Both of these are like offline ray tracing engines, and they are aimed mostly at DCCs, or the digital content creators, so 3D artists, so to speak. They're very accurate, they are very precise, highly detailed, they produce very photorealistic images at the cost of longer render times. Right? So if you want to have those very detailed with all the small scratches and everything, you need to wait. This is just the way it is. Next, we have Escape. Escape is something very different, because Escape is a raster engine. A raster engine means that it doesn't actually simulate light rays. What it does is more or less it calculates pixel colors based on the positioning of the light sources, of textures and materials, and the geometry in the scene. This is, of course, and Escape is very much aimed at CAD users, so architects and designers and engineers. It's very quick. It is very easy to get into, very easy to use and navigate. But on the flip side, because of the essence of the way it works, it is the images that it produces aren't that detailed. They aren't that photorealistic as well. And it doesn't support animation because it's a raster engine. You can move the camera, but if we scroll down here a bit, you'll see an example where the camera moves around, but people, vehicles, everything is static. Just so you understand the differences here. I think just because it doesn't support animation and the images aren't that photorealistic doesn't mean it's obsolete. On the contrary, actually, if you want to see something more specific, something more concrete in your conceptual phase, if you want to have a good previs solution, or if you want a real-time preview of your concept, you want to lead people around like in a computer game, this is a very good way to do this. And I see more and more architects actually using it. Next, we have Vantage. Vantage is actually more similar to V-Ray and Corona as it is to Escape, because it's not a raster engine, it is a ray tracer. However, in this case, it is a real-time ray tracer, contrary to V-Ray and Corona. This means it is what a ray tracer actually does is it simulates the interaction between the light rays and the surfaces and the specific surface properties. Okay, but it does it in a real time. It's once again aimed at 3D artists. It's again very quick and easy to navigate, easy to use. It supports animations, as you know. It's still not quite as realistic as Corona and V-Ray, but it's slowly and steadily getting in this direction. And the other drawback is that it definitely requires more computational power. So you need an RTX card, and the better the card is, the more fun you will have using Vantage. So if you followed up so far, you know that 3D artists or digital content creators have Corona, V-Ray, and Vantage for themselves, like the ray tracers, offline and real time. Um, the others, architects, engineers, designers, the CAD people, they only have Enscape, so to speak, and Enscape is a raster engine. So with Envision, the way I understand it, they will also get a real-time ray tracer. But it will be more towards their needs rather than to ours as 3D artists. So it will still be very quick, it will be easy to navigate and use, it will support animations, contrary to Enscape. And you won't need, as an architect, for example, you won't need to necessarily learn 3ds Max or Corona or V-Ray or in order to use a functionality similar to Vantage. Because I sometimes, in some 3D groups, I sometimes see people or 3D artists who maybe do the modeling work in ArchiCAD, for example, or in AutoCAD, and then they have to go over to 3ds Max in order to be able to use V-Ray, in order to be able to use Vantage, which is quite a long way. So these people will now have Envision. Of course, obviously, being a real-time ray tracer, it has the drawbacks of Vantage, so it won't be as realistic as Corona and V-Ray are. And the next thing is that it will once again require a lot of computational power, so a massive beefy RTX card or GPU in general, and so on. So this is more or less the difference. It's just different groups of people with their own demands, and this is what I think Chaos is doing, because of course we as 3D artists always say, hey, the software that I'm using, I want you to work only on it. Why do you work on different aspects? But we're not the only people that are asking Chaos for stuff. The architects and engineers have been also asking for years for solutions for their own situations. And I think this is what has been delivered to them. And the next thing, if you ask yourself, well, good, how is this? Isn't this a bad thing for me? Because if architects and engineers can now visualize on their own, would they need me? Of course, I don't know the future. I can just share with you my honest opinion, and it is that I don't think we have something to fear, because having a tool doesn't necessarily mean knowing how to use it to its full potential. And secondly, even if you know how to use a tool to its full potential, this doesn't mean that you know how to create appealing images with it. I myself have clients who, there's a very small architectural office, and at some point I even were kind of honest, even if it's a business own goal, but I said, you know what, there is Enscape, you may want to go over to this solution. And they said that they know Enscape and they like it, and they can imagine that they can get into it and learn it. But in the end of the day, they will probably still reach out to me to make the final images for them, for the press and stuff, so that, because I have the knowledge how to make the images appealing and they don't. So I think we can summarize that being an artist is a lot more than just knowing a piece of software or having a piece of software or certain tool. It's this, how do I put it, a mix of knowledge, experience, artistry, intuition even. So I don't think something like what we just saw there is something we have to fear, like Envision or whatever piece of software comes out, because in the end of the day, it's the artist that makes the major difference. So I hope this makes sense for you. But okay, it was a bit of an off topic, but I hope you could follow. I'll just check the comments and we can move over. Simon is here. He says, hi all, happy for my first picture that is on a cover of the show. I don't think it's the first one, is it? Okay, if so, I'm sorry. In the beginning, I said that you were already featured. If not, then all three of you are first timers. And once again, congrats. Ahmed says, Vantage is the future of V-Ray. In my opinion, it saves a lot of time while experimenting with rendering in a faster way, while saves a good quality. Yeah, I agree. Abdi says, having a hammer and a saw doesn't make someone a master craftsman. Exactly. Next time you lead the show, because you can bring it to the point way quicker than I can. But yeah, this is exactly what I wanted to say. This is just a tool. just another tool. And I actually see it in a positive way, because one of the most difficult projects that I have worked on in the past have been projects where the architects worked only in 2D. So they drew plans and stuff, sections and whatnot, and then they gave all of this to me and I turned it into a 3D model. And once I presented them with a model, they weren't necessarily pleasantly surprised. And it wasn't because I did something wrong, it was because they envisioned it in a wrong way, so to speak. So now they had to go back to the drawing board and redo their concept, and I had to redo my model. And all of this is a lot of tedium and very unpleasant and a waste of time as well. So if clients would use Enscape or Envision or whatever and just reach out to me and know exactly what they want and just want me to put it out there in its most appealing form, this would actually save me a lot of time and headache, and I'm in for that. Abdi says, no way, I love the show as it is. Well, then you'll be happy. Yeah, with all of this being said though, one thing's for sure. It is important to educate yourself. It is important to know more than your clients, because if the knowledge about a certain piece of software is the only difference between you and the client, then you can easily lose your position as a 3D artist. But if you know more, if you're educated and have this experience and know what to do, know how to present your image, then it's a very different thing, and then you won't be replaced that easily. And yeah, where you can start, for example, is with Abdi. He's very active in the comments right now, known as AS Art 3D and Motion Graphics. But yeah, he made a post in the group for the newcomers. He writes, "Hi folks, if you are a new group member, chances are that you might have been missing our tutorial series called Tyflow for ArchViz. There already are 8 parts that you can consider to watch and to learn and discover how you can use Tyflow, the free version of it by the way, in your everyday workflow. Feel free to visit and browse the dedicated playlists for it on YouTube, following the link below. And if you follow that link, you end up on said YouTube playlist where you find 8 episodes of this Tyflow for ArchViz series. And this is something really, really cool that I absolutely love, because Abdi starts slowly here with a general introduction to Tyflow, where to get it, how to install it, how it generally works. And later he continues by showing us how we can do certain things with Tyflow, with every episode showing a different aspect of it. So in the second episode, for example, he showed physics-based particle simulation. So you see this bowl full of bread. And what he did here is he had a bow and he had a bread set, and then he did the particle simulation, and in the end the bow was filled with bread in a very natural way that you end up losing hours if you try to do manually. In the third part, Abdi introduced ivy growth, which is amazing, especially if you don't have access to forest ivy, which we have in the meantime, but it is a part of the Forest Pack Pro, and maybe you cannot afford it, or I don't know, for some reason you don't have it, then you can go back to ivy growth with Tyflow and then put ivy on objects in your scene. Next, the fourth part, or the fifth part actually, it's how to do light chains or fairy lights. These are very tedious to do, so having a procedural way to do it is actually a huge time saver. It's also way more flexible. So yeah, definitely consider these 3. Part 6, cloth inflation. This is great for pillows, cushions, mattresses, if you want to do them on your own. Part 7, animating plants. This is something special. Now, if you take a look at the Chaos Cosmos library and go to the 3D models, vegetation, trees, you will see that some of the trees here, for example, have this orange point in the corner. If you go on it, it says animated in Vantage only, static elsewhere. But what if you need some of those animated trees in Corona? Or what if you need this peach tree in Vantage, for example? There is no animation for it. And this is where you can get back to Abdi's solution over Tyflow and learn how to animate absolutely any plant out there. And finally, the last part that we have is part 8, object replacement. Very, very cool when you have something to replace in a certain array. It's a huge time saver. I have used it in a work of mine already. 2 shows ago, I presented this. So if you want an example about this, just go back, watch the recording of episode 37, and you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, totally recommend this and everything Abdi does, because there is so much knowledge for free out there that he shares with us, and I really appreciate this. And not only him, but also the guys at the Common Point, and Bilal, and Konstantinos, and everybody else who does this and shares it with the group, because we all learn and advance because of this. It says Abdi Style Flow playlist, like their Spotify playlist. Oh yeah, last time you asked about my Spotify playlist. If you go to my page down here, you find my Spotify. Okay, Eldornet, and then down in the corner you will find it. That's simple as that. Okay. I wanted to share it, but I think this is probably the best way to do so. Abdi says, thanks a word for mentioning the tutorials. Appreciate it a ton. It's my pleasure, really. Giving back to you and people who contribute to the community is always fulfilling, and it's a ton of fun. So thank you back. Okay, I think we had enough of learning, news, and so on. Let's briefly check out the topic. And this is nothing new, actually. We have a project visualization challenge going in the group currently, and this is what I want to remind you about. There is an official post about it. So if you're up here, among the featured posts, the last one is the challenge for October. And if you click on it, you will you will end here. And there you'll find all the information needed for you to participate in this challenge if you feel like it. So yeah, project visualization, this is what we're doing. What you need to imagine is a scenario where a client reaches out and wants you to visualize their new project and depict it in an appealing way. If you want a bigger, longer presentation about this, just watch the previous episode of the show, where there is even a lesson, let's say, accompanying the challenge announcement. So more or less, what you need to do are 2 things: model and texture the project. It doesn't matter if it's something existing, if it's something that you found the plans on, or if it's an imaginary concept you came up with. That everything's okay. And then in the second step, visualize the project in an attractive and fitting way so that it's desirable to the target audience, or even to a wider audience. The rules are simple. Don't use ready-made models. The reason behind this is if something like this happens, and believe me, things like this do happen. I'm an ArcViz artist, and I have been asked already a few times throughout my career to visualize projects. And it's good to be prepared, but if a client reaches out and wants you to visualize their project, you won't be able to find it in a Cosmos library or in 3D Sky or CG whatever pages that have sets and models to buy. You won't find it there because it's a new project. So it makes sense that you have to create it or model it from scratch and then texture it. This is why we want you to do this, please. And then provide some screenshots as an evidence that you did it on your own. Second thing is, don't share old project visualization project of yours. This work must be done specifically for the challenge. The third thing is, let the object be an object. It could be bigger or smaller, but don't let it be a car or a house or something like this. And finally, please use a Chaos render engine for the final render. I think it makes sense and don't have to explain why. The deadline is Friday, December 6th, 2024. So you have 1.5 months almost until then. And in order to participate, just upload your images in the group as a post, image or images. It could be whatever you want, with some screenshots of you in the modeling phase until this deadline. That's everything you have to do. And please describe your idea. This is very important. There is here a link that you can follow to an article which explains the different types of project visualizations if you want to educate yourself. And yeah, I would really be happy if you participated. I'll show you an example. Ahmed, he was the first one who participated and already shared his contribution. He says, "Hey, fellow artists, my contribution to the product visualization challenge." So you see, he clearly states that he's participating. Next, he describes the idea behind his work, gives some insights in his workflow, shares some technical info. This is an absolutely greatly submitted project or contribution to this challenge. If you want to know how to do it, just follow his steps here. He's also shared like a million screenshots, which I really appreciate, but you don't have to do like this. You can just share 2 or 3, and that's more than enough. He shared all the steps. This is a campus, this is a community where we learn from each other. So doing something like this is actually pretty sweet. I appreciate this, but don't feel obliged to. Just wanted to tell you. If he wins, of course, this in the end, it depends on all the other submissions. But to me, and I'm being very honest here, the participation is already a win. And I know this sounds corny. I know this sounds like loser talk. It's not important to win. It's important that you participate. But believe me, with going through life with, I wouldn't call it wisdom, but the more I spend time on this earth, the more I believe in such corny stuff that it because on the way to a potential win in a challenge like this, you will be faced with a new situation and you have to learn to deal with it. You will definitely gain experience through it. You will face challenges that you have to overcome, and this will also help you grow. Eventually, you learn a new skill, you'll check out a new tutorial. Your self esteem will grow through it, your horizons will widen, and this is something nobody can take away from you. This already is an objective win. Remember, if you want to climb on Everest, you're not the one moment you're in your room and the second one you teleport over there. No, you do it in small steps. You just go to the base camps and you just walk up in your small everyday steps. And it's the same with the growth as an artist. You just need to take your time and do all those small steps, and at some point you turn around and you see how far you've actually gone. And yeah, I wanted to, let's be very motivational here and corny. So let me show you this quote that I have prepared by Michael Jordan, who says, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and I missed." Try to imagine this. So you're considered one of the, if not the greatest. At his time, he was considered the greatest basketball player of all time. The whole world is into basketball. You know, it's popular like everywhere. In some countries more than others, but everybody knows basketball. I think everybody knows Jordan as well. And everybody thinks, well, he's the GOAT, so give him the ball and he'll score. And then he misses. You cannot always win. This is the truth. Think about the Olympic Games. You have like hundreds or thousands of athletes that participate, and in the end, it's just a handful of people who win. But this doesn't mean that if you don't win, you have actually lost, because he continues, "I failed over and over and over again in my life, and this is why I succeed." And I gotta agree with this one, and I hope that it motivates you. Now, we end here the corny phase here because it's gotten too motivational maybe. But yeah, gladly participate in this. Don't think also too much about if you're going to win or not. Try to go for the win, try to go for the prizes. But in the end of the day, the prizes are just the icing on the cake. It's everything you put into all the effort and everything that you learn along the way to this potential win that is the actual win, in my opinion. Abdi says you have to lose to learn how to win. This sounds like some song lyrics, but it sounds really cool. And it's, once again, very gladly put together. Abdi, you should really think about having your own show if you don't want to take over this one. Amit says, "Thank you, Theo, for the playlist." Yeah, you're very welcome. It's if you like something out of it, I would love it. Anyway, let's continue. It's time, after 40 minutes, it's time to do some reviewing. And as usual, we will start with the work in progress projects, which we now actually tend to focus more on. The finished works we have in this inspiration section in the end of the show, where we just quickly go through, we see what's good about them, and if there is something that can be improved eventually. But where we focus more on in recent times are the work in progress projects, because then the artists are in the middle of those and they still have the chance to do it right the first time without having to finish the project first and then go back and rework it. Think it makes sense. And today we won't even start with Kama's work as we did the last shows. I think in every show we will start with Juan. Okay, and this is an ongoing project. Um, I always talk about the work in progress projects from the last Friday, not the Friday before, even though we still have a work in progress day every Friday. It just doesn't make sense to go so far back. It's just the one that is closer to the show that I focus on. This is our new logo. Maybe it's temporary, I don't know, but it looks a bit more like the official Chaos logo. It has the Chaos color. It has this quadratic format. So yeah, I wanted to recognize this. So when it pops out, oh, it's time for me to share my work in progress, and this is why I try to give it some type of an identity. By the way, folks, you're more than welcome to share clay models, because at some point I will run out of and have to start re-rendering some. So yeah, I gladly use them as a background for this announcement. Anyway, let's move on to Juan's work. So the first stage of it, he shared this very cool concept mood board with some really nice references, some ideas like the importance of the urban context, and even some, let's call them clay renders with a blue hour mood to them. So really, really cool beginning of this project. In the second phase, it was a bit of a letdown. I gotta be honest here, a bit sobering, because the sense of large scale that we just saw on the very first part of the project was completely gone now, and we just had a hill with some cuts in it, and this wasn't impressive anymore at all. Luckily, at the third stage, which is something that we talked about on the last show, he returned to the initial concept, showing this structure alongside its urban context, which makes a lot of sense. So also the sense of scale was now back. However, the angles were a bit flat, so it was difficult to understand and see the whole structure from those flat angles. And also the city looked kind of generic and lifeless, missing this lived-in feeling of the big city. So today we will talk about stage 4 of this project, and where the two main issues that I just mentioned were addressed and, if you ask me, properly dealt with. He writes, work in progress. Hi friends, I present to you the progress of my project. I changed to a more appropriate view for an urban scale project, and I think I managed to give it more life and make it feel more like a city, taking into account all the advice. I absolutely agree, and I'm not the only one here. Danushka says, hey Juan, huge leap in progress in my opinion, really cool work. Amit, hey Juan, it's a nice and huge progress from the previous versions. And it definitely is. Let's take a look at why. So first of all, it's that the urban context is once again very present. And with a structure like this is absolutely essential, because it helps better understand the concept behind it. And in turn, the concept integrates way more harmoniously. All of a sudden, until this point, to me, all those lines were more or less random, just so that this thing looks cool. Now that I see it from above, or I can actually understand the design, it makes sense to me suddenly. I see that all the entrances that this building has are situated where we have some urban openings, or where we have some pedestrian crossings, so where we have a lot of people, which of course makes a lot of sense. Also, it seems like this structure is oriented around those two buildings, which I assume were pre-existing here, or not. I don't know. This is something one should say, but yeah, suddenly we get to actually understand this whole thing. And this is huge. The next topic is that the city now really feels lively. Prior to this phase, it felt like a generic static background. Now, if we take a look at the images, you see how with those lots of different buildings with different facades, we have this lively street infrastructure. We have the street markings, the pedestrian crossing, the street lamps, all of this. We have a lot of urban green. We have tons of vehicles. It's great to see not only cars, but also a van here and there. I would also recommend adding a bus or a lorry, a truck, whatever you want to call it, so that it looks even more random and lively. And of course, we have a ton of people. It's very important. It's a big city, and big city has lots of people. This is how it is. So, and those people aren't only around the structure, but they are also atop of it. And I think this is part of the functionality of it. So it makes a lot of sense to actually depict it with people being on it. I know this must have been a lot of work, but it definitely was worth it. And you say, yes, the two buildings actually exist. Okay, if the two buildings actually exist, if we take a look at the previous stage, do you see those buildings anywhere? I don't see them. I didn't realize they were there until the current version of your work, because now I see them. I very much know where they are, and I understand how this structure orients around them. I think you also did a very good job with the materials as well, because they add a lot of authenticity. It's a big city, and especially the central area of a big city, and they are seldomly uniform and monotonous. There could be living quarters that look uniform, but the center of the city, this usually isn't the case. You see, you have a glass building next to it. There are some old historical buildings probably, and each one of them has its own color, its own texture. But it's not only the buildings, it's also the trees, the streets, the sidewalks. All of this just adds to this lively, authentic city. I also enjoy that you decided to give the structure different green lawns, because once again it makes it more lively. And the distance fog is also one thing that I think that I consider to be a very good idea, because you want to keep the viewers focus and attention on what you want to show them, which is this structure and not everything. Unfortunately, however, the middle or the center of a big city has a lot to offer. There are very interesting buildings there, but you don't actually want the viewer to focus on, concentrate on them. You want them to focus on what you want to show them. And given that you cannot really use depth of field as you can do on a regular interior, I mean, you can do it in a post-production, but then your images will end up looking like tilt shift photography, which in turn looks like miniature model photography. And once again, I'm sure this is not the effect that you're looking for in this specific case. So yeah, your means of keeping the focus are kind of limited, and using fog or distance haze and things like this is actually a very good way to do that. Now, Amit says the variations of greens look lively. Yes, they do, but we'll talk about this in a minute once again. So now let's take a look at the issues and the stuff that you may need to do more. So first of all, the major issue to me, and not only to me, to your fellow artists in the comments, is the lighting here. First of all, it is too bold, it is too contrasty. If we look back to your references, you see how soft the lighting is on all of those examples. Even here, where we have direct sunlight, you see that there are no shadows that interfere with the buildings depicted, the buildings that we want to focus on. In your case, however, the buildings get, or the structure gets literally overshadowed. This is what overshadowing means. Is the shadow over it? Just it's just not good. And why? Because your structure is already very fragmented. Let's try to showcase this a bit. Okay, so we have many lines. I'm sorry, I'm drawing with my mouse. but you see all those lines that intersect here. So there are really, really, really many cuts, sections, leading lines, whatnot. And what you do with those shadows is you add further ones. You add further structure and fragmentation to your already very, very fragmented concept. You shouldn't be doing this. I understand this is probably lighting that could happen in real life at some time of the day in this particular city. But if this is the case, then this simply is not the proper time of day to depict this building. Remember, professional photographers, half of the work they do is not the photo shooting, but it's the preparation for it. Depending on the project, they would sometimes even spend a whole day around, let's say it's an exterior building they have to photograph, they will spend a whole day walking around it, trying to see at which point, which light comes where, when there are lots of people in front of the building, where there is nobody, and stuff like this. So you gotta experiment with this as well, because in the final phase of your work, you are actually a photographer, a virtual one, but still. So what you can do, of course, is, as your fellow artist suggested, you can just change the sun angle. Now, if you did a daylight simulation here, and you cannot just randomly change the sun angle, then try to go for maybe a noon time, because at noon usually the sun is quite high and the shadows are quite short. If you are free to change the sun direction however you please, just rotate it in a way where there are shadows, there are no long shadows atop of your structure, but somewhere on the side. I understand why you like those long shadows, because especially with people, it looks even more lively and even cooler, and even more atmospheric. But if it doesn't, something like this, shadows cannot interfere with your main hero of your scene. Second thing I would advise you to do is to brighten up your sky environment. So if you work with Corona Sun and Sky, then pull up the numbers of your skylight environment so that it becomes generally brighter and the shadows aren't as dark anymore. An alternative solution, of course, would be to go for an evening or a blue hour mood. If you did so, of course, you can light up your interior here, but of course, there pops the question, how about the surrounding? Because it will take forever to simulate lit up surroundings, because if it's evening, then lots of windows on all of those surrounding buildings need to be lit up. Well, here I have a solution for you, and it's from a group that you yourself are a part of. Here you are. It's the VW AI Lab by Vasilis and I think Matt Hallett in the meantime. And here there is a post by Matt where he announces his Aerial City to Night SDXL LoRa. And this SDXL LoRa, what it does is, just let us take a look at this image here. So it's a really bad Google Earth image with poor textures and geometry. And take a look at what AI did with this. So in your particular case, you can use this workflow as well. You can just make a day scene, you can light up your building, and then you can use AI or LoRa like this on your surroundings, and you end up with a really, really beautiful looking, and as you can see, it's pretty high quality. The textures look amazing, way, way better than they used to in the beginning. Yeah, just compare those two. I'm not trying to make advertisement for AI or for Matt or for whoever, but in the end of the day, we just need to make sure that we create the images that we are after. And this would be one of the solutions that I myself would try to pursue if I think it's a good idea. Daniel says, yes, but if you look close at that AI model changes the geometry, in the end, it's not the same as in reality. It does change it a bit, for sure, but I'm not sure how exact Juan's model is as well. So I'm not sure if this change is that significant that it would be bothersome, because in the end of the day, we need the city and its, let's say, rough structure around in order for our structure here to make sense. We don't need to specifically showcase this building or this one. We just want to show that this structure has its urban context. And this is just a solution. And I don't say this is the best one. Maybe there is a better one, but this is what I would recommend to Juan in this case. Anyway, no matter what you do, if you do an evening shot or a day shot, you definitely should add light on the inside of your structure. Of course, it will look even better with an evening mood, but also during the day, because now you've moved the camera further up. And now that you did so, we can actually see through those gaps what's on the inside. And in order for this to feel safe and welcoming to the people who will access it, you need to show that there is light inside. First of all, the light will make sure that people understand that something happens on the inside. These are not cuts and just some ways through this field, but it's something is actually there. And the second thing is that people will know that they can feel safe going inside, because if I take a look at this or this here, it doesn't look that safe. It's dark and yeah, the opposite of inviting, to be honest. Now, when we talk about the lawns, Amit mentioned it, and in the very first part of my review, I also said that it's a good idea that they aren't exactly equal, but the way they are in the moment, they are also too different, which kind of makes for a restless, disorderly look of this whole structure, because it's just too much going on. Remember, you already have all of those cuts and sections and everything, so you don't really need much more for this structure to be interesting. And if you add more, at some point there is a lack of harmony in it. Also, this dark green lawn, it seems like it's been done with AI, most probably, or also it could also be matte painting. Whatever it is, it looks to be too wild, too unkempt, like it belongs on a mountain slope, but not in the middle of a big city. So my recommendation to you would be to give your lawns a way more uniform look, so the same type of grass. I personally very much like those parts here, and I would recommend you to take the grass that you've used here and use it everywhere. Of course, you can do some slight variation to this. For example, to the saturation, hue, and gamma. You can easily do it with the multi-map in Corona or with the multi-subtext map in V-Ray, if you're a V-Ray user, so that there is still some changes, but these changes need to be subtle and not as strong as they are. The only exception could be the parts that are not accessible. Let's say this one or this one, the actual roofs, because all the other lawns, I can imagine, will be regularly trimmed by some landscape gardeners, whatever, so that people can actually access them. The roofs, however, will probably be some excessive greenery, and if you want them to be different than the rest, then you can maybe give them a different green tone or a longer grass structure. But for the rest, especially these ones that have the same function of being accessible to the public, I would go with the same type of grass. Next topic is the AI. The AI, so first of all, we have a consistency issue. Take a look at the roofs of those pre-existing buildings. So you see we have some solar panels and maybe some, I don't know, ventilation units or AC units up here on the first shot. And if we take a look at the second shot, it's vastly different. It's not just a small difference, it's something completely else than what we saw on the first shot. So what I can recommend here, if you want AI to do your roof work for those two buildings, is to at least do some rudimentary modeling of the structures that are actually situated on those roofs, and then hope that AI will interpret them the same way on this and the other shot. If not, if those buildings are actually important because they look like they're a part of the structure and of this whole square here, I recommend actually modeling everything on those two roofs. I know it's even more work, but I think it would be a good idea. And also, let's take a look at the second shot. I would say make sure that AI makes sense because what we see here, these look like skyscraper roofs because we have a million HVAC units, they're like heating and ventilation and air conditioning units, and these are typical for buildings that are higher, for skyscrapers and something like this. But they are way too much. It's absolute overkill for a 3 or 4 story buildings like the ones that you have. So this doesn't make a lot of sense. Also, take a look at the shadow direction here. It goes to the left, and take a look at the rendered shadows. They go in a very different direction. So this doesn't quite work the way you intended to. So yeah, you really need to be cautious when it comes to AI, and you need to inspect your scene very thoroughly and remove everything that doesn't make sense in its general context. If we go back to the first shot, I would say also remove those two trees or make them smaller, because currently we don't see how this bridge actually spans over the street. And I think it's a great quality that you don't have to go down to the street and then go up again. You have this bridge, then show it properly. And one last thing, the background. Currently, it's visible that your surroundings come to an end at some point, and this is not good for the realism and authenticity. So what I recommend here is either use a backplate, maybe placed on a semicircular plane, maybe scatter some further generic buildings or trees in the back, or try an AI solution. Try that AI just fills those gaps with some city continuation if it works. But it's really important for upholding this big city atmosphere that you're establishing here. And I think that was it. It's a great improvement since last time. I was very happy to see this fourth state of the project, and I'm actually very proud of your progress and your hard work. It's a huge project. It's a lot for a single artist, but you're doing a great job. And similar to Amit, I'm also waiting for your next phase or the final outcome, whatever comes. Juan says, thanks, Theo. Appreciate it. Amit, good knowledge sharing on the greens, Theo. Appreciate it. You're very welcome. This is what I'm here for. Okay, let's continue with another work, this time by Simon. You're also here, man. I saw you in the beginning. I hope you're still here because we're now 1 hour in. So, this isn't an ongoing one. This is a new project and on almost finished one, or very advanced state for sure. Simon writes, work in progress, high O, just a bit boring building, trying to make it kind of interesting. It is located in the port of Athens, Piraeus, Greece. Rhino, V-Ray, and Photoshop for images. Runway for the video, just based on the existing renders, and some simple prompts. Looks promising, still some hallucination as all the AI out there. Comments are welcome. Have a nice Friday. This is cool. Very cool description. And I think it's great to see something what we see already here on the small screenshots, is that you have very different moods and approaches for the different images or the video. You didn't just set up one lighting and then started going around taking photos, virtual photos around the building, but you gave every direction or every shot its own meaning, its own attention, and this is great. So and makes them also pretty unique. So maybe let's just go through them and analyze them a bit. So to me, on this very first shot, the main topic is how nature-bound this building is. You're in the comments, so please let me know if I'm right or I'm wrong, or if you intended something else. Let's talk. So yeah, here I see how nature-bound it is, because we have the trees surrounding it, we have the trees in the back, we have the field or the lawn in front of it, and even some landscape plants here at the corner or at the bottom. And we have a glimpse of the sea. And on a secondary topic, I see it's the location. So it's a part of a bigger city. Maybe this is a harbor area, or I don't know, some kind of a shoreline visible here. So to me, the first shot is about the nature boundness of this project or of this building. Indeed, I see that many archivist masters do different lighting scenarios, but the hard part is the consistency. Well, if the lighting scenarios differentiate enough, then the consistency isn't the problem because the consistency is how different they are. It becomes problematic when there are just minor differences because in this case it becomes easily inconsistent. Okay, let's check the second shot. This one is different. Here, the main topics are the location and the view. And even though we don't actually see the view, we can more or less imagine it, and we know that there is nothing between the building and the sea. So it's a first line property, so to speak, which of course is a very, very high quality, right? Next, we have the third shot. And here, the main topic obviously is emotion, right? It's a beautiful sunset by the sea. Who doesn't like this? And finally, we have the video, which simulates a time lapse. Oh, I probably should remove the sound just for to be sure. And yeah, it brings all those three situations that we just saw to life, but adds more dynamic and more emotion. You see the sun setting down here. And to me, it's actually a lovely experiment. It's good to know what AI is actually currently capable of. Now, so after going through all of this, I would say the framings are actually big quality of this project because they help emphasize that it's not only the building itself that we have to look at, but also its location, its beautiful surroundings as well. They are exactly as important. Oh, sorry. So it's like we can analyze the second shot for this. So obviously, you can frame a shot like this, like that, right? Because what we did cut off is a part of the sky, but we still see it here, and parts of the sea, but we still have a part of the sea still visible. So we didn't reduce the information provided to the viewer by going for a framing like this. However, what we change here is the message of the image. The message of an image like this is it's about the architecture. Yes, there is some greenery, there is some sea, that's good, but take a look at the architecture. While you go for this type of framing, however, it's look at where that building with this beautiful architecture is situated. It has the sea in front of it, and it has the greenery and the blue sky above it. There is so much air to breathe there. You know, this is a different message, and something like this is important. So I think you chose the very right framing here. Other than that, lighting, materials, modeling, scattering look good to me, especially the lighting because it's different on every shot, as I said. Now let's take a look at some issues or things that you may want to do. So generally, I find the interior to be a bit too empty. I'm not sure what type of building this is exactly, but it can certainly profit from some interior. You see, there is a cafeteria or whatever this is down here, but some of the other rooms seem completely empty. So I would say add some lamps or wall art. I mean, if the project is finished, you can do whatever you want. If it's not finished, maybe you can convince your client. Another thing that I would say about interior is that it seems like you have the same material on the in and outside of the building, which I'm personally usually not a huge fan of. I would recommend going with a different material or a texture or something for the inside and the outside area, so that it's more comprehensible for the viewer to understand what's an outdoor area and what's an inside area. Another thing is the grass on the very first shot. Let's go back to it. I must admit I'm not a huge fan of it. First of all, it looks a bit generic. Secondly, it's very wild and unkempt, and this is kind of strange given how many stairs lead into this lawn. You would think that it would be nicely cut and trimmed so that people can actually go there and I don't know, use it, lie on the floor or walk through it. But the way it is now, they probably won't be doing this. Next thing is I find these white flowers, white and yellow flowers, to be kind of distracting. Why? Because you already have a lot happening at the bottom of the shot. You have not a lot, but things happening at the top as well, and a lot is also going on in the middle. So the blue sky here and the grass field here should actually act more like counterweight, like buffer zones where not so much happens in order for the image to not become unbalanced or too heavy. With all the small, all the uneven ground underneath the grass and all the different grass clumps and all the additional flowers, it's too much is going on in this area. So I would recommend just picking a neatly cut grass and putting it here. And additionally, pay attention to the color, because the current color that this grass has is kind of it has too much yellow in it. We have yellow here up as well because we have translucency. And as you know, in order to, especially with foliage, if we have translucency on it, we usually we make our translucency map, we tend to give it a bit more yellow so that we can simulate how the light is traveling to the translucent leaf. However, your grass here is almost like an autumn grass, like it belongs in a different season, and it really doesn't go well with the green on all those plants down here. So just take a cut grass, scatter it, and make it more green and less yellow, and I think it should be better. And then there is the third shot. Second shot is great to me the way it is, and then there is the third shot, which is lovely the way it is. I really like how you have made sure that there is enough space between the end of the reflection of this tree and the edge of the image, so that it doesn't feel like it barely fits. That's great, but the balance still feels a bit off. It's mostly because of the ratio, the building to water ratio, because this is one of those cases. What is going on? Come on. This is one of those cases where we don't have this mirror-like reflection where we see the building twice, once up here and once in the reflection. It's a wavy water, so the reflection is more atmospheric than actually something we enjoy that much looking at. So what I would do if I were you is I would extend the cropping upwards a lot until maybe a rule of thirds applies, and then I would also extend it a bit to the left as well, so that you don't cut the very edge of this fire escape stairs. So it would look more like this. And I think this way it is more balanced and somehow nicer to look at, and the proportions and the ratios are better. Really let me know what you think in the comments. As for the animation, I mean, the animation is of course something special. It feels a bit like a fever dream. I mean, most things make sense, but you see it here. We had those people here going around in a time-lapse mode, and then we have those at the entrance that don't move at all. This, of course, doesn't make that much sense. So if you want to do something like this, remove all the static people before doing it, and then do the prompting that there are people within the limits of the building. Then we have the second shot where, okay, I get to remove this, where the people, once they enter the building, they start morphing, which is, of course, kind of creepy. I mean, it's fun for us to watch it now, of course, but what should I say? It's a great experiment, but if I were you, I wouldn't share this video in my portfolio or on some official channels, because it's it can be bad for your reputation. Somebody who doesn't understand that you're just experimenting, like a potential client, may think, oh, this dude doesn't see obvious mistakes in this thing, and maybe this explanation, still some hallucinations as all the AI out there wouldn't make sense to them. So if I were you, I would leave the video out, but I still think that it is an awesome experiment. But with that being said, to me, this is another great project of yours. You've been very active lately and sharing all those really cool projects. So only thing I have to say is please keep them coming. They're a pleasure to look at. So thanks for the advice. They're all really helpful. I admire Mir because they many times do these weird framings and I'm trying to go out of my comfort zone. You mean like on the third shot? Well, of course, you can do this as you please. Sometimes breaking the rules is also pretty cool. It's in the end of the day, it's up to you. If you like the image the way it is, then it's good. I personally like it more like this because to me the building still is the more important part of this image, and I also like the sky gradient as well. If it was all yellow, I probably wouldn't like it as much, but I like how it starts going into blue. So yeah, to me this adds some further dynamic, but this is one of those things that it's up to you. It's subjective. Just do what you feel like. I'm just sharing my opinion here. Anyway, let's move on to the last work in progress work that we'll be talking about today. It's by a mirror. It's another one which is not ongoing. It's new, and it seems like it's in the light balance phase. It's not the very early one because there is already a lot of detail, but it's still not textured. Let's see what he has to say about it. Work in progress, it's an administrative building. Feel free to comment your feedback to improve it. And he has tagged me. Now, Amit asked a very reasonable question. Hi, Amir. It's a good looking shot, but not sure whether you just shared for us to know that this is the project that you are working on, or do you require any help with the project? Kindly specify if possible. And once again, this is very reasonable because as we said that we will be doing those work in progress days, we also stated that we don't want people to just throw the current state of their work out there and expect everyone to just start commenting about everything. So it's more like if you want to share the current state of your work, you're welcome to do so on Fridays. However, please have a specific question or a specific topic that you want to get some input on, because otherwise we have to respect the time of the people who are eager to actually sit down and share their opinions or their feedback with us. So please, in future, don't just throw the image out there, but give it a proper description. Tell us what you're on about, what your ideas are, and then be specific what you want to hear from this community about. Apart from that, I must agree with Amit once again, because he says this is a good looking shot, and I also get a very positive first impression. I see some solid modeling, good amount of architectural and urban detail as well. I see a nice composition. It's cool how the main actor is kind of framed between this building to the left and the lantern and this branch in the corner. The lighting is promising. It's very soft, which and pleasant, which makes sure that the shadowed sides aren't too dark, and we can still very much see what's going on in them or on them. And I also very much appreciate those environmental reflections you have on the facade. It makes it lively, it makes it realistic. It's very cool. Now, what is there to do from my side? So, in the topic of lighting, remember that generally speaking, when it comes to the lighting composition, it's the bright areas that tend to get the viewer's attention. Now, if we analyze your image, you'll see that the bright areas are the street space in the front, the buildings in the back and to the right, and only a small part of your building, because 3/4 of it are actually in the dark or in the shadows. Now, if you don't plan to illuminate your interior so that the building shines from within, then you may want to reconsider your lighting composition and make sure that you have a dark foreground and surrounding buildings, and what's lit up is the building itself. Not completely, but as much as it gets. The next topic is the modeling, and there are some different issues here. First of all, you have some hovering elements, this hydrant here, the building to the left, and even some facade panels seem to be levitating in front of the facade. Next thing is the Volkswagen Beetle. So you see a part of it here to the left and one to the right. I love this car. It's really pretty cool, but nowadays it's also pretty rare. So seeing two of those in one scene is highly unlikely, and I would suggest that you just, you can keep one, but I would say swap the other one for a more casual and regular car. Next things, obviously the surroundings need a bit more detail. So you need proper curbs down here. You need a ramp for this garage entrance here because currently the Beetle really needs to climb over the curbs or the sidewalk, and this doesn't really look comfortable and safe for the car. And of course, the surrounding buildings need facades. When it comes to more detail, the interior also needs it. You can hint it with 3D assets from the Cosmos library or your own one, for example, or as Amit suggested, you can use a parallax solution to fake it. Parallax solutions are, of course, a huge time saver, but yeah, you need to know if you're a Corona user, they sometimes aren't best friends, so you may want to look into that and maybe do some research if you can now use Corona with parallax without any issues. But this would be a legit solution as well. Talking about things that Amit said, the depicted season is a very good point because what we see now is a branch without any leaves. We also see reflected winter trees, and also we have this soft low lighting. So I assume that what you depict here is more or less a winter season. If this is a winter, however, then you need to make sure that some of the plants maybe don't really go that well with winter, and that your people walking around are also properly clad for the season. If not, then you may need to reconsider your greenery and your reflections as well. And lastly, it's the framing. Currently, the framing is, we just had it with Simon's work. Currently, the framing is very architecture oriented because all we see is the building and just small glimpses of the surrounding urban situation. What the current framing says is look at the building. Yes, there is some situation, but it's not important. Look at this building and its architecture. If you want people to also understand the urban context in which this building is placed in, then you need to extend your cropping a bit, something like this. You can extend it even more to the right because this is the main direction this building is facing, and also a bit to the top so that it's not so encapsulated in this very tiny framing. But it is okay the way it is. And that's it, what I have to say, because you didn't have a specific question or a specific topic to talk about. That this is why I keep it also a bit more general. To me, this is a very promising project of yours, and I'm looking forward to the next phase of it. But make sure that you take the time to actually work on the details and make everything make sense and work and just look good. Fingers crossed. I see Muhammad joined us. Greetings, Theodore. Happy to watch the interesting episodes. Yeah, you'll be even more happy if you see what I am going to talk about next, because we finished the work in progress projects and now we'll take a look at some inspiring projects that have been shared in the group within the last 2 weeks. And last time, as we started our inspirational phase of the show, we started with seaside resort. It was an oceanside resort. It's not so important. The Zanzibar resort. And today we'll also start with a resort. At least I assume it is. Muhammad, you're here. Tell me if this is the case. But this time it is the Bukshanopur Palace in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Muhammad says, hello campus, we're excited to present some of the beachfront CGIs of Bukshanopur Palace in KSA. Modeling, art direction, and visualization are crafted by Nagy Studios thanks to 3ds Max, Corona, and Photoshop. So, just taking a look at those thumbnails, we can already say that this is a huge project involving a ton of work. And despite that, it is absolutely wonderfully executed. It's incredibly detailed, as you can tell. It's very atmospheric as well and has great modeling, texturing, scattering too. Um, for me, however, the highlight here are the bird view shots. They are simply amazing, truly fascinating. Especially my favorite being this top-down shot, because not only is this very authentic and very realistic looking, depicting how nature and man-made structure come together, but also it is simply beautiful to look at. If this was an image of mine, I would just plot it out, put it in a frame, and hang it on my wall, because this is something beautiful. It's leave aside all the architecture and the project itself. It's just a good looking image. That's a pleasure to look at least I find it to be. What's even more fascinating with this one is that apparently no AI has been used. And I don't say apparently because I thought what Mohammed told me, but because this is the way that I understood it, that everything that you see here and you think, wow, this is so incredibly realistic, is actually the result of matte painting and not AI. Mohammed is here. You please confirm this, that I got it wrong, or if I got it right, if I got it, that I got it right, and if I got it wrong, please correct me. But yeah, I think this makes it even more impressive, honestly. As for the isometric shot, what I like about it, it's once again very realistic, very atmospheric. I also like that it's closer to the actual situation, so that we can now get the chance to actually enjoy all the small details and textures and waves and everything else, because there is so much work put into this one. Um, the only issue I have, and this is actually with the whole three images, is this building here in the front. It looks just very basic and is somehow not on par with the extremely detailed and realistic rest of the images. Like, even if you go back a shot, you see there are even the smallest details here and imperfections, and suddenly we have this, I don't know if it's a roof or a terrace, whatever it is, it's just kind of too clean and sterile and just doesn't match the rest. So my recommendation here would be to, if this is a terrace or whatever, to just populate it with stuff. And if not, then just do some matte painting on it as well until it gets a look similar to what we have all around, because everything else is just so perfectly realistic, and then this thing here just needlessly takes away from all that realism. This is just my personal opinion, of course, but this is also my only criticism, because all in all, this is an absolutely amazing work. And honestly, Mohammed, I'll be cheeky enough to ask you if you guys would, you know, would do a tutorial, or at least some behind the scenes of this one, because I'm sure that a lot of artists that take a look at in a project like this don't know how something like this is possible to do with all of these miniature millions of details. Um, Mohammed says, I'm totally thankful for your lovely words. Yep, exactly. The images have no AI interference and are created as discussed using V-Ray, Phoenix, and Photoshop, retouching with some aerial textures. This is amazing. Obviously, this is your workflow. I don't think you should be putting it out for free or something. But if you could make just a small tutorial, just for a small part of it, it would be amazing, because this is just so believable. I absolutely adore this image, honestly. Um, Amit says Ricardo was very active in feedbacks for a few of the projects on this group. Hope he does the same for future as well. Good to hear his insights as well, along with you and other our friends. Oh yes, we've gotten some great feedbacks from Ricardo. I was also extremely happy to see this, and yeah, the more feedback, the better. And goes to all of you. Of course, Amit is very active as somebody providing feedback, but he doesn't have to be the only one. Give him some competition for the prize of most active group member. Give and help your fellow artists. You profit from this. Amit, you yourself have been doing lots of constructive criticism for a long time now. Do you feel like you profit from it, or do you feel it's like a hobby that you gain nothing from? Please be honest and write in the comments. Amit also says my point was also the same for the terrace. It needed to be populated. Hope Muhammad doesn't mind with my comment. Why should he? We're here friendly with each other and we just share constructive criticism. First of all, this is not the ultimate truth. It's just our opinion, and it's meant only in a good way. It's meant only for the benefit of the artist. So if people listen to it, it is meant to make their work even better, which they will profit from. If Muhammad reworks the terrace and now it is exactly as realistic as everything else, it's not me who is going to win out of this, but he and his studio. So I think nobody should have anything against well meant and constructive feedback. Amit says, yes, very much I profit from feedbacking, and I get that peace in my heart to have helped my fellow artists if he or she has benefited. Yes, this feels good, right? I can totally confirm this. This absolutely feels right. Mohammed says, I do agree with you, dear Amit. The landscape of the project was the main focus, and the project deadline didn't offer us much time to add more detail to the rooftop. This is very understandable. It's of course it's visible how much work was involved into this project. So yeah, of course you cannot just rebuild the whole world. It will take you forever. But yeah, maybe before you add it to your portfolio, because last time I visited your site, it wasn't there. Maybe before you add it, you can just spend just maybe a few hours and just make it be on par with everything else, because everything else is just amazing. And yeah, once again, if you decided to do a tutorial on just a small part of how you achieve something like this, I'm sure nobody here will have anything against it. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the next work. Which, by the way, is a good evidence that a work doesn't necessarily need to be of a huge scale to still be nice and pleasant to look at and provoke positive emotions. Um, before I go into it, let me just read a comment from Muhammad. I do invite your audience to check some of the simulations we shared before to our Samaya Beach project. I promise to create some tutorials about this workflow and notify you. This would be awesome. We would love this. Thanks. It says, being thumbs up to you, Muhammad. It's excellent. Please make a small tweet for this if possible. It seems like he's eager to do so. And yeah, there is a link in the comments where you can, follow. I don't need this. Come on, man. Where you can just take a look at some of those simulations by Mohammed at his studio Nagy. Okay, let's take a look at Null's work. Once again, I don't know how to pronounce this name. If some of you does, please write in the comments. I'll just call it Null. I'm not even sure about the gender of this person. It's not that important, but because I sometimes say he or she, it would be nice to know. Anyway, what we have here is this living room close-up by Null, and they say, this is a close-up image from a project that I'm currently developing using 3ds Max and Corona Renderer. It's actually pretty good. It's quite realistic, it's clean, it's crisp, it has good materials to it. It's also beautifully framed with this sweet depth of field, isolating the foreground with blurriness so that we can easily focus on the main part of the scene. By the way, this could actually be a very good environmental project shot if it was about that armchair, because it's the product, it's nicely visible, you can see the materials, you can see the design of it, and it is put in a situation that very, very much fits it. However, the highlight for me in this scene is the atmosphere, because I totally buy it. Even though this absolutely isn't my preferred style of interior design, I still would like to take a seat there with a book and just enjoy reading for a few hours in that armchair. And to me, this personally is a huge achievement, because this means that at least the way I see it, Nell has reached the main goal of our work, which is making what you depict currently appealing to the viewer. And it's even more impressive if that something isn't the viewer's usual choice, as it is with me. I'm not into this architectural style or furnishing and stuff, but I would feel very, very nice there. And if I take a look at this, I would go like, you know what? If my home would look like this, I would feel nice in it. I would enjoy it. I think it's mostly due to this very harmonious furnishing, the pleasant color scheme, and the precise lighting, because the lighting here is really good. We have the environmental lighting coming from the outside, being not necessarily coldish, but kind of neutral. And then we have this very targeted and precise lighting from this small reading lamp, which illuminates this area here, the focus area, making it even more cozy, comfortable looking, and inviting. What's not so good, we already mentioned, Amit and I, it's this yellow light strip underneath the window. It takes away realism, doesn't look that great. Also, as Amit pointed out, there is some clipping here with the curtains, and this beige curtain is missing the rope that's bundling it together. And also we have those two repetitive curtain sets. Now, this is not the hugest issue. It can even partially be fixed in post, as you can see. I mean, I tried to remove the major similarities between those two, but nevertheless, the form still stays the same. So if you want to deal with it in a proper way, you need to do it in 3D. So either use a different set or try to fix the geometry by mirroring or scaling or using an FFD modifier in Max, something like this. But yeah, I think if you fixed all of those problems, it would be a great scene, and then you can just try taking some 1-2 further shots, close-ups. It would be awesome, an awesome portfolio project. Now let's move on to something very, very different. So we have this, how should I call it, a facade study by Flatson. Let's see what he has to say about it. Hello guys, I would like to share a recent architectural visualization project completed by my studio. It's a residential property located in Brazil for which we developed two different facade proposals, differing only in the vegetation. The client opted for a more simple and minimalist facade, but noticing a lack of vibrancy, I suggested an alternative with increased landscaping, subtly enriching the environment while maintaining its elegance. It is important to know that the disclosure has been limited to the facade only, as requested by the client, who preferred to keep the other aspects of the project private. It's done in SketchUp, 3ds Max, Corona, and Photoshop. Now, great description as usual. Flatson's description are always a pleasure to read. Now let's briefly check the images that we have. And I would say we already see some really solid modeling, fine materials, nice framing, lighting, some scattered leaves for a more authentic look, and also good AI enhancement as well. Sure, there are some small issues here and there. It seems like the front wheels of the car are somehow hovering above the floor. And personally, looking at the last shot, it seems like the asphalt and especially these pavement textures are a bit overscaled, but these are no big issues. To me, the bigger issue here is that you are presenting the viewer, in this case us, two different versions of the project. This is what you describe in your description. The client opted for a more simplified look of the facade, and you thought that adding some more plants will look better, and this is your version, the way I see it. However, what you did here is a bit of a no-go because you didn't keep the same conditions, and this is a rule. If you present two different versions of the same thing, you need to keep doing this under the same conditions. So you need to keep the same camera and the same lighting. And in your case, both are different. And as you can see, given that we have the difference in those two images, it is very difficult for the viewer to decide, because I may maybe like the lighting here, but I may also prefer your version with the plants. But given that they have different lighting conditions and different cameras to them, these images aren't that easily comparable. So please keep in mind in future, if you want to present two different versions of the same thing to somebody, keep the conditions the same so that people can actually easily decide. But this is definitely not what I wanted to show you this project for. So we just mentioned that Ricardo was giving feedback, and he also gave feedback to this project by Flatson, and I will read it now. He wrote, "While I completely understand this being a client's request, the front view is not exactly doing any favors to the design, in my humble opinion. I definitely go with a perspective view instead, showing the volumes a little bit. Of course, as long as the client is happy, it's all good." And I absolutely agree with this. This definitely isn't the most exciting facade that I have seen in my life, and it definitely also doesn't provide any further info about how the house actually looks like. Is it small or is it big behind this facade? Is it flat or is it placed on a hill and it has an amazing view? We don't know anything about this. However, sometimes we gotta deal with situations like this. We have those limitations by our clients and those rules set by them, and even sometimes we have unattractive stuff to work with. This is why I really love what Flatson did with this very last shot. This is the highlight for me in this project. Because the facade is still the same. It didn't get more beautiful and exciting in the meantime. However, what Flatson added here is atmosphere and storytelling. How? With a realtor. I assume this is a realtor or the host of some show which is currently presenting the property. Like, take a look at this. She has a great body language because she's pointing, literally pointing at the house, which makes us focus on it. Um, and yeah, I don't know what she's doing. Maybe they're making a promotional video as realtors, or maybe this is some type of a show. It doesn't really matter. The woman is in the middle of something, and we get the impression of this, and she's showing us the house. And then we have the cameraman. We don't see him, but we see his shadow, and we know that he is filming or taking photos at least. And this adds to the depicted situation. This adds so much dynamic and excitement, and at the same time, it takes away some of the unwanted attention on the facade, because the facade already takes half of the image. So we want it or not, we see it and we can focus on it, right? But at the same time, it's not that interesting to focus on it alone. Let me show you how it looks like if... okay, where is it? Okay, I lost it, but I will make sure to find it. Give me a second, please. So, because I have prepared a version of this without the woman. Yes, this is what this image looks like without the woman and without the shadow of the cameraman. And as you can tell, it's just a facade. And given that the facade itself isn't that interesting, then the whole image isn't interesting anymore. And this is one of those images that you skip. And this is a huge issue. You don't want to create skippable images. I remember one time a client reached out to me and he showed me a few ready-made visualizations that weren't even that bad, and he said, please redo them, but in a way that people will find them interesting enough to stay and look at them instead of scrolling over. Turns out that every time he showed those already made visualizations to his clients, they would just say, okay, next, I don't want to see this. This is not exciting to me in any way. And this is why, even though they were technically actually pretty good, I had to remake them in a way that they are actually interesting, that they are also telling a story. So yeah, what Flatson would have had if he hadn't had this woman and the cameraman is this. And this is one of those images that you just click next on. But what he did is this, and this is really great. And it reminds me of a project of mine, And because Amit and others actually too are often asking me to talk about my works, let me use this as an excuse to talk about this shot, which I initially shared in the VW Art Club back then, and it was very warmly received by the 3D artist community. So here we have a similar situation. This is what I just meant. This is one of the situations when you just have to deal with, let's say, not the best conditions to work with. And this is not me being mean about the client's project behind their back, because even while working on the project, we all agreed, so me and the client agreed, that this definitely isn't the most exciting or beautiful architecture people have seen in their lives. It fills the purpose that it is there for, but it definitely isn't that great to look at. So with a shot like this, I also had to come up with a solution, because if it would have been just the street, it would have been okay, but it wouldn't have been something that people, pay really much attention to. So in order to make it into this, I used a few tricks. First of them being I used unusual camera lens, the fisheye lens. Not too much too strong of an effect, because if it's too strong, people won't like it. It's still kind of realistic despite the round distortions, but it makes the image also more exciting. The second thing, obviously, it's the red kid's bike here. And as a 3D artist, I very much believe in subliminal messages. Gotta be honest with you. And I always try to incorporate them, not always, but if I have the chance to, I try to incorporate them in my works one way or the other. So, what are the subliminal messages connected to this kid's bicycle here? So, first thing is, obviously, if it's a kid's bicycle, then this area is welcoming to kids. So, families with kids can move in there. It's not only one of those areas, and unfortunately, um, Western countries sometimes tend to have such areas where small kids aren't welcome. But this bicycle here signs that this is not one of those areas. The second thing is that the kid, like that this area is safe. How should I put it? Safe in two ways. First thing is, this is not an actual street where a lot of traffic is happening, so kids can obviously just play on it and even leave their bicycle without any issue. And the second type of safety is, obviously we have the middle of the summer, but we have those long shadows. This means that the time of the day is either early morning or late evening. Obviously, it's not late evening, so it's early morning, meaning that this bicycle was probably there overnight and it wasn't stolen, which means that this is a safe area. Even if you leave your whatever bicycle, stroller, or whatever on the outside, you will still it will still find it the next day. And of course, safety is something a lot of people are interested in for obvious reasons. I didn't put more than this bicycle or strollers or footballs or stuff like this, because I didn't want this to turn into a ghetto. But nevertheless, I put this one. And of course, it's a red bike, because red and green are complementary, and I have so much green. So let's put the red here for a contrast. And then comes the shadow of the dude filming. So obviously, the garage is open. Probably this is somebody who lives in this house here, needs to get up early in the morning to go to work. The garage is already open, and maybe at that point I just thought, well, would you look at this beautiful morning? And they just took out their phone, as people do, and took the photo. And this is why we see them. And the way we see this person here makes it way more relatable to the viewer. Like the viewer themselves are standing there and looking at this situation. And suddenly, with all of those tricks, the architecture, you can still see the architecture very well. You see the density of the houses, you see the way they are, you see the wall structure, and then if you see the full HD image, you'll see even more details. So you can still see the whole, city planning situation and stuff, but this is not what you immediately focus on, because in this case, it's not that beautiful to look at. and you focus more on what's here in the beginning. And this is this type of trickery that you learn with experience, that you can profit from when dealing with situations where everything is not that great at the first place, or when you have some limitations or some rules like Flatson needed to deal with. So yeah, I really enjoy this one. I think Flatson, you needed to deal with a difficult task, but you pulled it off and handled it very, very well. This is why I wanted to show you this one. And yeah, it's time for the final one that I'll just briefly show you. This is a project that was shared yesterday by Ahmad. It's a great commercial work. It's called the Fiscal Hub. And he writes, I'm thrilled to finally showcase the renders I completed over 6 months ago for the Fiscal Hub project. It's been a privilege to bring the unique government facility to life through 3D visualization. Using ArchiCAD, 3ds Max, and V-Ray, I crafted the building, surrounding landscapes, streets, and atmosphere to highlight its modern design and purpose. Excited to share this journey and see it come to life in visuals. It's a municipal building in Iran. So let's take a look at the images. Ahmad knows what he's doing. This is immediately visible by the images. Very skillful execution, beautiful framings on all the shots, great looking materials. Just take a look at the street here. It's wonderful, very realistic. The street space is just on the first shot as well. The first street space is just perfectly executed. Also, exciting lighting scenarios as well. It's not only the same thing, but suddenly we have an evening shot where we see how this building looks like at night. However, the highlight to me here is this, how should I put it? What Ahmad achieved here in terms of situational perception. What I mean by this is what we have here feels like an actual massive government structure in a dense urban environment in a big city. And this is exactly what I think he was portraying. Despite not showing any bird views or tons of buildings around, it feels like it. And it's not only because of this building itself being massive and big, but also because of the infrastructure and densely populated surroundings as well, and all those people in the parks walking their dogs or just strolling around, all the cars. This is great. And one thing that is even greater is we just talked about subliminal messages, right? So let's take a look at the subliminal message here. I'll go to this shot. This is a municipal building, like a government building, a state structure. And as such, it needs to radiate stability, because the state needs to be stable for people to trust in it, right? And when does something look stable? I knew you got it right. It's when it doesn't move, when something else moves. So you see the moving cars, and you see how even more stable and massive this building looks like compared to those motion blurred moving cars. So it's a simple trick once again, but it gives you the impression of solidity, of being there and not moving away in any case. And once again, for a state structure, this is actually essential. So yeah, wonderfully executed commercial work that I think Ahmad should be really more than proud of. And I'm looking forward to the next one, honestly. And I think before we part ways, it is only time for me to show you the 5 contenders for the next cover image of the group that you have 2 weeks to vote for. I will make an official post either today in the evening or tomorrow, and then you get to vote and share your opinion. We'll start, they're in alphabetical order. We will start with an image that we just saw, Ahmad's project Fiscal Hub. I really like this one. I can imagine it being a very cool cover image for our group with a Chaos Campus logo atop of this one. But this goes for every image that I'm going to show you here. Anyway, this is a difficult one to pull off because it's an evening shot, so there is a lot of work involved in making this work and look believable, and I very very much like it. Next, we have an image by Bilal. It's actually only made to showcase this carpet down here, but I think that the situation that he came up with and depicted is actually really pleasant to look at, and it's generally a pleasant architectural situation. It's nicely balanced, it has some dynamic to it, pleasant lighting, good materials, it feels crisp and nice. So, another good choice, if you ask me. Next, we have Dilson's Calm Day shots, and this really, really looks like a calm day. It's just a room where people can feel good, where they can get, you know, wind down. It's a laid back atmosphere. It's very cool. I thoroughly enjoy it, and I love windows like this and ceilings like this as well. And I think it can also make a very good cover image to our group. Next, we have this one by Hankyu. It's a bird view. I didn't get any more information from him, but I think it's quite impressive and it's looking cool. Of course, I don't know how much, if any, AI is involved here or something like this. To me, it seems like at least these areas here are done with random, through rendering. Of course, when it comes to the surroundings, there is obviously maybe matte painting and whatnot, all the possible means to create an image like this. But in the end of the day, what counts is how the image looks like, and I really enjoy the look of this one. And finally, an image that we already discussed a lot. It's the Bakshan Apur Palace by Muhammad. It's just really a beautiful image. So this is another one that I can easily imagine as a cover image for our group. Maybe if it happens to win out, I will cut off a bit of this part. But it's amazing. So all of them are pretty great. I'll make a post about them and you can then go vote. And with this, I think we can wrap up today's session with exactly 2 hours. As usual, folks, it was a big pleasure hanging out with you. I wish you to have a good start in November. Stay safe, be healthy, and I hope to see you again in 2 weeks at the same place and time. And until then, rock on. Let me show you myself in a bigger because you love seeing me, I know. Rock on, keep it realistic. Much love, and ciao, my friends. Bye.